still laughing about the round.
Hello.
And dying at how pissed twist.
Loveita.
What's up, losers?
Just watching someone have a tantrum.
Danny?
Yes, me. Exactly.
I'm
And
actually entertained by this.
No, everyone's highly entertained.
It's
We're
entertaining.
very entertained.
Looking at more so though is like it's entertaining in the same way as watching somebody completely flame out, where I'm just like, oh my god, can you shut up? It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, let me introduce the podcast so we can get into it. But 32 days, 30 all-stars, 3 co-hosts, and 1 podcast. This is your host, Poody, and we're here to talk about Tasmania so far. It's been a wild ride. I guess we can get into some recaps. We just had a big night tonight because we had our first non-elimination tribal council where Garrick was quote-unquote voted out by his tribe, but he was placed onto the other tribe in a saboteur role. And you would think that would be the funny part, given his tribe's reaction and everything. But really the funny part is in his new tribe's reaction, oddly enough, where Sean just thinks that it's such an injustice and an assault against the ethics of Survivor, really, that he's now having a total tantrum about Garrick joining his tribe.
Yeah, this really like a good cap on a crazy first week. And now, these people are invested and they're taking it way too seriously, which means we're in for some great drama in the coming days.
We needed it this good. Last week was like fucking insane. And it felt like everyone was just like burnt out a little bit to start this week. And so people were just like chilling and taking easy votes. And this injected like the heroin of last week and or Sean into the whole tribe.
Yeah, I always forget having too much back to back. I think it takes such a toll on people. We ran into that with Revenge. The first time I really ran into it was Legends, where we just had so many twists and so many tribal councils. And at one point it gets to be overkill and people just become a little numb to it. So I think we were getting into that territory towards the end of this. The good part is that we've really spaced out the game in these following 2 weeks coming up where they'll have a ton of breathing room. And I do think that will help with this a lot. I do see this week being more of downtime, but man, they are spiraling. Specifically, all these newer players that are hot off some of the newer seasons, and they're all very apt to prove themselves, but it's not going well in 1 week.
Yeah, I think a twist like this is great. One, like Joaquin said, it has given like an injection of all of a sudden everybody is up in arms about something again. It's not just, I'm in my alliance voting somebody out. They have something to talk about. They have something to plan around. But also no one's leaving. And after we took 30 people and down to 19 in 5 days, I really think letting this cast just breathe a little bit and be hilarious people we know they are, the little unhinged people we know they are. I think that's the best thing we can do for them, especially given that the rest of this week is just single vote outs. That should make it entertaining enough until they have their next weekend.
It worked out too with the balance and everything. Of course, people were burnt out at the end of week 1 with all the doubles, but also we ended up really lopsided with all those doubles with one tribe just winning immunity the whole time. And maybe if it had been more balanced, we wouldn't have seen some of that burnout. But now we've injected that life into it ourselves through these twists. And I'm really excited to see how they rebel against us as well in terms of making bad decisions now that they're all upset.
Yeah, that's a good call. I think it's interesting having Nungu, I guess I don't even know how to pronounce it. I never really said it, but it's interesting having them win the entirety of the first week of challenges and not having to vote anyone out, barring any full swaps that went on. And then coming into this week and almost exclusively being the targets in this swap. So we're almost getting this weird reversal of them now having this predictable pagonging situation going on, whereas they were just on the giving end of that, let's say. And so this twist has allowed a little bit of a reprieve from that. Garrick should have probably gone home. Certainly him and Nina were up for the boot tonight, but because of this twist, it's broken up that pagonging and predictability at least a little bit. And so, yeah, we have given them a little bit of a predictability reprieve so far.
I agree with you, Poody. I think one of the things you see a lot in 3 tribe seasons is there's just like that one tribe that's constantly safe. They're just itching to vote out their tribe mates. They've had all these plans all week that they've wanted to carry out, and they just didn't get the opportunity. So, you have these players like Valeria and Alex who have been basically primed for blindsiding allies and making moves, who have spent a week unable to do anything. And so now you have them in swap positions. And the thing that's crazy is that these pink tribe, the Nungu tribe, people are all gunning for each other, even if it doesn't make sense for their games, because they've just been planning on voting for each other for a week. So I'm really excited to watch that dynamic kind of play out over the next couple rounds, especially with now this added anger about Garrett getting to survive another day.
While still having an idol that nobody knows about.
Yes. He was like the best person from that tribe to get it. I didn't understand. Like, I get being frustrated that like they lost all those challenges in a row, but like after talking to these people for 10 minutes, you could tell they were not going to stay together at all. Like, they were very much itching to just destroy each other. And so there are like all these people like Anina or Mimi, I kind of get because she's clearly pretty good, even though some of the other shit people said was annoying. But like some of these other people, like it's very clear that they can be picked up as votes and like alliances, and everyone's just basically saying, go fuck yourself.
Also, since 2 of them have gone, I think there's only 5 left. It's not like there's this huge swath of them that they need to get out or they're all going to be fucked. Like it's pretty even at this point. So it's like maybe it's playing softball stranded.
I think what it comes down to, why people keep saying, oh, it's anti-Nungu from the orange and green of Palawa and Titima, however you want to call it. But I think it's also because of the remaining partners. Most of them are non-Nungu overlaps. So I think they're using that as an excuse too, because they don't have that connection, but they have a connection to that other tribe.
What's fascinating to me, we'll do a little recap in a bit, but it's funny how much the recent seasons have bled together. Like, I basically in this season can't tell the difference between Tanzania, AGNC, and the Andes. Like, they're all the same. Like, you could have told me that they were all people from the same season and I would believe you. And then there's everyone else. It's just very interesting. Of course, we did see a lot of our old school players. There's still 2 in there, I think. But the vast majority of them were all taken out early, which is fine. The remaining people are so insane that I'm highly entertained. It's definitely shifted the game from, I would say, a serious strategic situation to we know it can be a complete shit show. Not that one is better than the other, but it'll be interesting.
I do think, Poody, one of the things that really stands out, like you said, is there's a very distinct difference between people who played pre-Instant Messenger era on the Stranded site versus people who played in seasons where basically they just camp out in the chat all day and talk with each other about anything. And I really think that's going to cause a divide here. We've talked about these people are like activity policing each other and being, these people aren't trying, they don't deserve to be here, which is such an interesting sort of idea to grapple with in an online game. You don't want people to be posted here for 24 hours a day, but they can't step away because and the other people who are sitting on the messenger all day think they're not trying hard enough. And I think that's going to be one of the things that I'm most interested in moving forward, is just seeing like how much of the sentiment sticks around as we head into merge.
It is, on one hand, it's good to have the most active people. Obviously, in a situation like Wei, who was voted out earlier this season, you want people who are going to be around and playing the game, but there is a level of these all-stars, and some of the older school players they have different benefits. Like, they're just really good personalities, and it's not so much these are active, insane players that you might find on a newer season. I do think that it might be something interesting where the newer seasons, they haven't played in as many games, or they've played very recently, and they're used to just the whole inactive going early thing. And so I think that they're carrying that into this season where it may not even apply necessarily. Certainly, I think everyone who has played, barring some exceptions, has been pretty active, certainly enough to socialize and vote. And so it's really a weird, I say it's softball stranded. They're playing the game as if they're playing with all new people, where you're just going to stick with your tribe and about the least active. And that's not really getting into the nitty gritty of how to win this thing.
Yeah, that's the point. They all know they're returning players, which we can get into how badly some of them are hurting Alias in later sessions, but they all know they're returning players and they're still trying to play this as a simple, easy, straightforward, I'm the best kind of person here because I'm an all-star type thing.
Yeah, one of the things that's been very entertaining to me is watching people in their messages to one another pretend like they haven't done certain challenges, or they'll talk about how they have no idea how to look for an idol, all these things where I'm like, okay, we all know you've played Stranded before. Everybody here is an all-star, a returning player, so you at least know how the board works, how the basics work. They don't need to do that first day of an Alias or, oh my god, this is my first time shtick that a lot of people love to do. Some people are doing it, even in an all-star game where everybody knows you're a returning player. It's a really interesting little twist people have brought to the season for me.
It feels like people also care more about who's who. Like, I don't know, Danny, like when we played the first time, there were like people that we identified. What was it? Dan never really tried to hide who he was. But no one gave a shit about that. They were just like, oh, that's Dan, and then moved on with their lives. Versus people here, it feels like once they ID someone else, it affects them or gets them on some sort of weird rabid high where they're like, we have to vote them out now that I know it's Xander or whatever. I don't know. It's so weird.
I think the relationships on these newer seasons have been a lot more like personal, like even in the types of like conversations they have in DMs from a Gian and the Andes and like the relationships they were building. And so now they're like, oh, these people are going to be in here, and they don't think about Alias games the same way, which is really interesting.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think, if anything, the insistence on people IDing the other players in the game really has proved the point of the twist this season, the secret rivals. The minute Valeria IDs anybody, even if it's somebody that isn't her rival, she ID'd Simon, she goes, oh god, I need to get Simon out. She ID'd Tyler, and now she's, I don't know if I want to work with him. She's ID'd Sean, and she's, I don't know if I want to work with Dom. You know, like these people, I don't want to say they hate each other, because they clearly don't hate each other. They have good relationships, but they have a very big, like, wish to be the best of the returning players from their season, of their friends.
Should we go back to the week and just quickly go through all the boots? I don't know what the easiest way.
It's like fallen angels are poor boots.
Yeah, we'll just quickly go through them and point out any notable things in their week where they went, or their day, rather. The first three boots were Poody, which was played by Spencer, Rogue, which was played by Jillian, and Gerald, played by Dan from Tanzania. I thought, of the early boots, I think probably Rogue was the most character potential, but I think it's fine that these were fine first boots, to be honest with you.
Rogue had her arc. She would have lasted longer if she hadn't had her arc so soon, but the fact that she was so close to that immunity challenge and didn't get chosen made her blow up and turned the target on her immediately. And I think that's about what we would expect and everything we needed from her.
Yeah, I would say I was not like super, oh man, we lost them so early. Like, they would have been fun, but they weren't people that it wouldn't be like if we lost, I don't know, Lonzilla or Garrett first.
Yeah, I think. Go ahead, Walk.
I was looking forward to Spencer coming back, especially like the last time. It's always funny seeing like the runner-ups try the next time, because usually they either crash and burn or see what he learned from playing last time and like hamming up his personality. Like clearly he was having fun. I think I wish he had lasted longer. Do we know why he like just bailed that weekend?
I think he had a party or something. I don't know. Maybe he was traveling. Who knows?
He was busy. That's the only one that really felt like we were robbed of something, because Spencer is such a wacky personality. You just know some of the shit that he and BZ were going to come up with throughout this season as they pretended to shtick back and forth about the sea urchins in the leg. It was so unserious. I would have loved that energy. But at the same time, if he was busy outside the game, like, oh, then so be it. I'd rather him leave. The other option that night was Cataly, and obviously I would have preferred her to stay. So,
yeah, Spencer's great. He's hilarious. It's just I know he's not going to be the biggest player. Like he might coast. So I was surprised he went so early, given his challenge beastitude. But that tribe didn't even need him. So who would have thought Spencer goes first and that tribe still dominates? Anyway, moving on to the next round of boots. These were a little sadder for me. We had Chrissy, played by Jean Robert, and Wei played by Erin. I had Erin as my winner pick. Obviously, she ghosted, so I'm glad she went, obviously, but I'm really upset that she wasn't around, considering she was doing pretty well that opening weekend when she was around. And I was very excited to have her back, but I guess that's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes. And then John Robert as Chrissy was a very disappointing early boot, I think, because he would have been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I agree. It's always tough when somebody goes inactive after the opening weekend, especially somebody that you've been like excited to bring back. So that was rough. As far as JR go, the Chrissy boot, I still don't really understand how he wound up so on the outside of that tribe. Every single player was like, oh yeah, I guess I did forget to tell Chrissy about what the plan was when he was in a funk after the vote, after they had taken out Rogue. And I don't know if it was just that he wasn't making as much of an effort to talk to people, if his personality just didn't mesh with the rest of that Orange tribe. But yeah, it was an odd position for him. And normally he's such a fighter. I feel like he just was so on the outs of the tribe that he gave up there near the end. Tried throughout the entire council, of course, but I think he was resigned to the fact that there's nothing he could really do.
It was a really weird position to go from like winning immunity the first round to then immediately getting voted to being the minority voter and then being immediately voted out afterwards. And I feel like the narrative was just spun around him more than anything. And I don't know what he could have done to change things before it went downhill too fast.
Yeah, there was like a game I played where I was like the first time I tried being a female rep, and I like made my shtick that I just kept on talking about how hot I was in like all of the chats. And eventually you just, if you're not used to being and running that kind of a shtick, you like run out of shit to say and try way too hard not to come off as you. And I just saw a little bit of that in him where he was like felt like he was holding back from being JR a little bit.
Maybe a little bit afraid to go too big. I also think that might have been a little bit of a trying to correct from past mistakes. Go from being the big character, the big personality of the Andes and trying to maybe tone it down a little bit. He just went a little bit too far in the opposite direction. I was so worried about coming off as the big personality that maybe he just didn't come up at all.
Yeah, moving swiftly ahead. We have our two chaotic kings that went in the next round of tribal councils. These are fun. We should have a lot to talk about with these, but of course we have Caroline played by Garrett in his second furthest stint in Stranded, surviving 2 tribal councils. Also Raymond played by Rob, another chaotic king. These were sad boots. I don't know. It's tough because I really like everyone on this season. Even now I'm struggling. There's like one person I would be not super upset with going, and I really like that person. It's just like they're not delivering this season, and I feel that way about everybody. Like it's a really stacked cast. I think the most unfortunate thing is that we've had such a lopsided early season players versus like brand new season players, and so that's a little disappointing, I think, is what's causing it. Because on paper, like a lot of these earlier boots were predictable and not anything that would shock me or be make or break for the season necessarily, but it's just I would have loved to have a better mix at this point. So I think that's where I am. But we can get into the specific boot because Garrett finally let the Garrett out. He held it in as long as he could. He made it 2 tribal councils and then all hell broke loose.
I love Garrett so much. Like that whole day was just wild, especially given the fact that for people who aren't aware, we have 2 idols hidden on every camp in the first stage of the game. There's one real one and one fake one. So once the first idol is found, the next person to get in with their password gets a fake idol. And so Garrett got the fake idol and just started coming up with a million plans. He had ideas of trying to send it to another tribe. He was talking about who he could give it to the best luck and just went off the rails. Like it was so wild. And to the point where he posted the idol right before chat went down for tribal council. And then was like, hey guys, I'm not going to be at tribal council. Can somebody post the picture in tribal council for me? Oh, it was just so much fun to watch.
It's like we gave him that one hit of heroin and he just went off. He went on a binger.
That's all you need. It's just that little nudge and he'll go way off the deep end. I wish he had lasted longer, but God, was that entertaining.
It's just like, I know the deal. I'm going to bring Garrett back and he is like 90% of the time, like 95% of the time, not going to make it to the merge. And that's okay because the few tribal councils we get are going to be so entertaining. We'll have a season's worth to talk about.
It's not that he can't. Like, I don't think he wants to. Like, literally, if he had just shut his mouth in the round before, not targeted someone he was apparently in a Final 3 alliance with, he would still be around. He would have been fine.
What he said was that he got bored, which is so relatable because I don't know, whenever I play an online game, I get bored and I just want to fuck shit up and tank my game, and just because I'm bored. And I think that's how he is. He gets bored and he wants to start pushing buttons. Hello?
We also lost Raymond that day, yeah? Is that the same round? That one was sad, too, because he was just kind of on the outside of a big majority alliance and couldn't really do much about that. Although, probably saying he wanted to get Kara pregnant from the start was not the best way to integrate with his tribe.
I feel like he was used to playing with a raunchier crowd, and then, I don't know. You would think Ali would be into that.
It really is just depending on who you're playing with and what time of day you're making those comments at. Because if I read his exit posts correctly, I'm pretty sure he was drunk the first night and was just fucking around on chat and having fun. And of course, then makes a highly suggestive sexual joke. It doesn't go over well, which sometimes that happens. It's just unfortunate that really put him on the outer from the very opening minutes of the game.
Yeah, he recovered actually like pretty nicely from that. The problem was just like they made a 6-person alliance right after he made the comment, and they just like never turned on each other.
Yeah, rip. In the next round, we had Sam, played by Ricard, and Khan, played by Will, who voted out. These were pretty sad. I like Ricard. I think he played a little too slowly here. I think he could have amped it up and probably would have done a little bit better. It's also just a weird position with the partner swaps, but I think he could have done more to prevent that from being so strange. And then Khan, I actually think he was doing really well, better than I thought he would, but it just didn't work out. I was really sad to see him go this early, but not everybody can last long.
Both of those boots were just tragic in different ways. Sam, because Mark had swapped with her, and then she just didn't swap back because she was drunk the night before. And so she was the default boot on that tribe. And then Khan just not knowing he was on the outside of that 6-person alliance and being snowed about it. I think if that tribe had just won one round, he would have been totally fine. But unfortunately, he didn't do that way.
Also, wasn't he... I feel like this is when Eden started unnecessarily picking people off that he didn't need to. If I'm remembering correctly, It wasn't Khan very loyal to him, and he was just like, well, you gotta go.
Yeah, so the thing that was, to me, the most sad about the Khan boot is that his best bet would have been turning on Eden, right? That's what Crack was supposed to be in that alliance of 6 onto Tima. Kitty Mama, whatever we want to call him.
Mama.
But yeah, the problem is that he felt extremely close to Eden. So his targets were Liz, were Kez. He was looking at the women of the tribe who were actually in a really strong position within that 6. And just because he was on the outside of that alliance, he couldn't really get a good read on who he needed to try and fight and stay. And so then he just chose the wrong target and really started pushing it, which just solidified him going home. It was unfortunate. I really wish that Kez and Kara would have stuck to their guns and tried to work with Khan to take out Eden. It just wasn't meant to be.
Yeah, we're going to get into Eden. He's been really dominating. I hate to say that, but it's true in the work.
Love the way he's set up to be like that. He's just set up to be like such a juicy merge boot. Like,
totally.
He cares so much. He's trying so hard. And we're going to hit the merge and people are just like, fuck it, I can't deal with you anymore.
And it's everyone hates him, but they just have to put up with him. And so therefore he is dominating, but in a way that cannot be sustainable.
I mean, he and Sean are going to be fighting each other for that position, though.
That's true. This is going to be a train wreck for sure.
Neither of them are going to burn out. They have unlimited energy. I don't know where they get it from.
Because I think some people have ID'd them as each other. They've incorrectly ID'd Eden as Dom and Sean as Jacob.
They're playing, you could easily do that because they were playing as if they swapped places from their last time. But anyway, let's get into the next round of boots. Baden, who was played by Ian, I was incredibly saddened by this vote because he had such a good storyline going and he's such an entertaining character while he was there. And also George leaves in a 3-3 tie, 2-2 tie rather, three-way tie, played by Crazy James. Another shocking early boot. I honestly, I don't know. I would have liked to see what Crazy James could do further in a Stranded season, but it wasn't like the huge impact on me like Baden's vote for some reason. Baden had like this whole storyline going, and I was really interested to see him and Varas throughout the whole season, potentially had it gone a little bit further, and it just got cut short, I think, for me. So that was a little upsetting. I don't know.
If Baden had swapped one more time, he would have been safe until the tribe swap, and then I think been totally fine. Like we're seeing like the Palawa people are like very much the middle votes on both tribes, and I think he would have been like him and the same as, is it Ferris or Faras or whatever? Like they're both people that like they never were in like the main group, but they weren't on the bottom, and so they've been able to float the middle. But I loved him. I thought he was so funny. He was just like memeing around. But I didn't think, like, his vote was just so expected to me. It was like, oh, the first time he's not immune before the swap, he's going to go home, whatever, versus, like, Crazy James, this was more unexpected. He was, like, on everybody's, like, big contenders list, and he was, like, very much setting himself as an under-the-radar kind of player who was in with a lot of good people. But to Sean's credit here, he actually missed Kat, like, pretty hard at that tribal and gets her anti-George, and he like also spread some stuff about how like George is, and he basically is like telling everybody that it's like somebody else's idea to vote them out to get the target completely off him, when I thought that it was going to be him going home.
The George boot was insane for a pre-merge tribal council. Like that Alliance 6 on Tatima was pretty solid, and then Eden deciding after they voted Khan out, swap and get out of there, and then bring Emmett in as quote-unquote unbiased outside observer to the shit show that was the Green Tribe. Yeah, it was wild to watch. Like early in the day, everybody was convinced it was Sean, and then probably like midway through the day, Planet switched to 4-2 vote on Liz. And then by the time I came back for Tribal Council that evening, it was then a 2-2 split because somebody had leaked to Liz that her name was going out. And then it all turned on Kara and George. And I mean, I love Kara, but George was clearly the bigger player of the two. So to have somebody that big taken out in such a crazy way so early was a nice reminder of how good an all-star season can be.
Yeah. Credit to Eden there too, because he would have been out if he had not swapped.
Yes, that's true. And he did cut off Baden when he did that. No, someone else. I don't know. Something happened.
No, it was Jordy volunteered.
That's right. Yeah, I think for me, that's one of the tribal councils pre-swap rather that really stood out as, oh, this isn't all-stars. And they were playing because everything else had been not obvious, but varying levels of predictability. This is one that was like, it could have gone a lot of ways, and it was really up to the last minute. And then there's the element of Kez and Kara kind of getting played by Sean, and we're still seeing that play out. And it'll happen again with Kez as well. But yeah, it's interesting. I really am enjoying Kara this season, and I almost feel like Kez is stepping to the role or the mindset that Kara/Allison was in Tanzania, where she's becoming a little bit bolder in her moves, but is still very like reactive. So that'll be interesting to see if she flips a switch at some point. And I think having a relationship with someone like Akara would help her step into that role. Whereas I think last time she was with Leslie wasn't super proactive that season. She was in a down position. I even remember Leslie trying to talk Jamie into some bigger moves that season. So I don't know. I really like Jamie Kez, but I don't know how she hasn't proven herself as like a player just yet. She's still in that character territory.
She's socially doing great though. Pretty much everybody loved her the first week. But I think in general, that kind of sums up the kind of player this season. We haven't gotten to the future yet, but it feels like the number, despite however like 17 people left in the game, like less than a handful of people are like actually playing well strategically. It's like mostly like social people like trying to figure it out.
Yeah. It is a little bumper cars. It's like, it really, I was talking to Loveita about this before y'all joined. It's very a GNC late game gameplay. It makes sense because there's a lot of those fuckers here, but it's almost like they've infected everyone with this, like, the only way I can describe it is mental bumper cars, where everyone's just making reactive moves and causing everyone else to just like, bounce off of one another. And not like, there's not like a huge steering of the ship going on. It's just a herd mentality going in random directions.
I think this season, I think somebody already shared the GIF at some point, but the way that I see this game playing out is like that. It's the Mario Party game where the person playing Luigi just sits there on his ball and everybody else falls off. I truly think the winner of this season is just going to be the person that does themselves so fucked that they get voted out. Like, it's going to be who can make the least bad moves moving forward. So that's at least where I think going.
I'm hopeful. It was a ton of fun throughout the whole season because of this. And I really think all it takes is 3 or 4 really good players and a fuck ton of idiots, and we'll have a fun time. Almost like Micronesia fans versus favorites situation. So I'm hopeful. I think we are in for a fun merge.
Sure. As long as we're on the topic, we want to talk about Mimi's boot round as well.
Yeah, we'll get into, let's just go through quickly the swap votes so far. The first vote after the swap, Tidima lost. I'm going to call him Tidima because I think that's actually how it's pronounced. Kelly was voted out. Huge robbery. Not necessarily from a player standpoint, but certainly from a character standpoint. One of our very old school players, very funny, had some shticks going on, but also like really involved in the game. And I was really upset to see her go here.
Yeah, Kelly was one of the ones that you could tell she wasn't really deep in the mix on Nungu. She had some good relationships with the other women on the tribe, but she just has that classic kind of old school poster confessional where 90% of the stuff that goes into her confessional has nothing to do with the game. It's just her ranting about being an old woman or calling someone cunt. Like, she had very little actual, oh, let me tell you about my plans, and more so, I'm coming here to shit talk everybody and just coming up with the funniest stuff that I could say, which really was one of my favorite things to read. And I'm sad that everybody took it away from me so soon.
Yeah, Kelly's humor and wit are perfectly on point, had me cracking up every time. And I think if the swap had done a little bit differently for her, it would have been fine. But because she got stuck with Simon and for us, and they're in that huge Nungu group that wanted to just split themselves up, I don't think that worked out very well for her.
She really reminded me of Tessa from Red Center, whereas like this old school player who was really just fucking hilarious and just trolling the whole time, and everyone was just there for the party, but didn't take them seriously as a player. And I think in an alternate universe where this is a 24-person cast, she'd probably get around the same boot of a merge boot. But in this scenario, she's here at, I don't know what it was, like 20th place or whatever. I'm glad she played. I'm glad we got what we did, and she was hilarious while she was there. At the next tribal council, we had a very sad departure with Mimi. I think this is really the start of unjust Nungu boots. She was really blindsided and unfortunate, really.
Yeah, another unfortunate swap situation where then she gets put on this tribe with Nina and Garrick as her other Nungu and like a whole bunch of people who are just like, get rid of all the pink people now. And I guess since Mimi tried talking to them, that meant she was the one who had to go.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't love the strict adherence to original tribe lines that some of these people seem to be like really set on. I get that's like a pretty basic survivor strategy. I understand why it's appealing. In a situation like this where there were so many people from that Nungu tribe still around, I get the mentality of, all right, we just want to take one of them out. I'm just really sad that Mimi, of all people, was the casualty because she was playing so well. Had done such a great job setting herself up, and then just got swap screwed a little bit, which is never fun to see happen to somebody. I still can't really figure out what exactly she did to make them feel like she was so messy. They kept being like, oh, Mimi's so messy. And I was like, what has she done to be messy other than tell you that tribe before wasn't really super kumbaya and was a little messy too? But apparently they just didn't want anything to do with her, which...
It really felt like deja vu with Jean Robert, where everyone's just like, oh my God, he's actually trying to play the game. It's disgusting. I'm like, yeah, he's in the minority. He's going to try everything he can. That's how this works.
How dare you try to vote it out?
Yeah, there was someone that like posed, it was like, how dare she ask me like what happened on my tribe before the swap?
The group think, the hive mind.
Meanwhile, it's really Ross is sending like 1,100 word essays to people about what happened on his other tribes.
Oh, yeah. Dude, we didn't talk about the essay. How many words was it? It was at like 8,000 or something?
It was over 1,000 words, yeah. Not an exaggeration.
We didn't really even get to talk about for us, but for us, switching tribes every round, unbeknownst to him, was iconic and hilarious. And just watching Cataly have to be pissed off at Baden the whole pre-merge was everything.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I'm sad Baden left when he did, because I would have loved them to have been swapped on a tribe together.
Especially because you could argue maybe they were the weakest of the rival pairings and they just absolutely hated one another. So good. So yeah, that's Mimi. Poor Mimi. Happens. And then finally we're up to date here with this last boot where we had a twist. We had Garrick voted out unanimously after Palawa lost, but fortunately for him, it is a non-elimination and he is now swapped to the Tidima tribe where he has the opportunity to get a further round of Indy along with his idol that he still has, so he should be pretty good for a while. I think this should get him to the merge, which is very interesting. Eric is one of those players that really, the first time he played in Kuril Islands, which was a long time ago now, it's hard to believe it's 4 years ago, but when he first played, he's so blunt and to the point. Like, he's not the social player that's going to talk a lot, but he is a man of action. So when he's ready to play, he plays. And he's actually he's very smart, and the way he plays is smart. And so it's interesting how effective it is when it really should not be. Like, talking to people that little, you should not be able to stick around, but yet he somehow manages every time. And to me, that's very interesting. I don't know what that is, but I think it's just a combo of, if he was around so much and playing that aggressively, he'd definitely be an early boot. But because it's softened by his less than active status, it's like he can get away with it. Is interesting.
He's either going to be voted out right away by people like these self-righteous whatever you want to call them. Poody would probably use a word that I don't want to get canceled over, but or he might make the end and be like a third place finalist or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I think at this point everybody's a little too pissed at him for him to have any chance of winning the game, but I really just want him to fuck up everybody's plans for a while.
I think, yeah, at this point, he is the saboteur, and I think he'll play that role for us for the rest of the pre-merge. One way or another, I could see a world where he gets to skate through because he's made so many enemies. I could see a world where he just is the easy vote. I could see a world where he makes the merge and then is an easy vote that everyone can agree on. There's a lot of ways that could go, but I do know he has been able to stretch what probably should have been a very short stay. With him going home in the last tribal council, he's managed to eke that out into several more rounds now. So that will be very interesting. If nothing else, I think Danny was saying he's the new Baden, and that's perfect. That's a week 2 Baden. We got another storyline going, which we love. So it'll be interesting.
We need him to idle out Sean. Like, that needs to be the storyline.
Yeah, if Garrick is just there purely to fuck up the whole game, that would be iconic. What's going on left? Nina, we'll talk about. We didn't really talk about, but I think is a highly underrated player. Obviously, she was like a fan favorite in her season, but proving again that she's not just a fluke of a good player. She's used to playing from the bottom and being at it time and time again. And I think that's the mark of a good player. I think we're about to see that happen again here on the Palawa tribe.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what's going to happen now that it's just her with those 6. If they're going to try to let her in at all, or if they're just going to keep shutting her out. I'm interested. I hope she can eke her way through it, because that would be really fun to watch and root for.
I was going to say, given the makeup of that tribe, I'm just so worried for her, because
I think she can do it.
Or out of
I believe.
I'm turning. I'd love to see it. I really like her, and I would like to see her keep playing. even though I wish she would just use one color in her confessionals. But other than that,
I
she's
don't
been
see
great.
color. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, I view her and Faraz maybe as like the two people most apt to play from that position and make it out alive. And we've already seen it with Faraz. Obviously, Faraz is like years and years of experience over Lindsay Nina, but she's good. I wouldn't put it past her to make it out of this. I believe she can do it. Croc on that tribe, I don't know. I think Danny, you were saying like Dean is always in this position, and it's true. He plays like an entertaining lazy game is what I would call this. For me, he's in like the Spencer territory.
Yeah, I think what I see Dean play as a lot is he's just social enough to get taken into like the majority alliance on whatever his starting tribe is, but he's never like at the center of it. He tends to be like somebody else's +1. So like in this case with the Palawa 5, he seems really attached to Jordy, and he seems to have okay relationship with Kirby, Haley, and a decent one with Emmett. But he's not the one getting all the information. He just winds up then being the name that they would potentially agree to vote out. So I think what I'd like to see from him is just take a little bit more initiative, make sure that whatever you're doing is good for you, not just good for let's get green and orange to the merge.
Yeah, I don't think he's the type to drive a plan so much as follow a plan.
Yeah. We'll move on to Kirby on that tribe, played by Heather. Heather's just so fucking entertaining. Really just a pure personality. I don't know if she'll ever be a player necessarily, but I'm here for her just being angsty.
She's been so funny this season. Her confessional is so entertaining. Even though, like you said, a lot of it isn't great strategic gameplay, but it's the way that she talked about the game and the stuff that she gives us is just so entertaining. You can't look away.
Yeah, I think she'll make a deep run here. I could see her as a runner-up here, where she's, or at least so far, been like very under the radar and like entertaining. But we've talked on the blogs and shit that the Palawa 5 are they're the main characters of the season so far. On top of the fact that they were like the shit show, and like they had Caroline, they had Baden, they had all the entertaining stuff beforehand, but they're the only people from the beginning that aren't really fractured. They're all together. Everybody else is like trying to turn on each other. And then on top of that, like we'll get to Emmett too, who's probably been like the star of the season gameplay wise. So whether or not it's to like other people in that alliance or like falling in theme with like other Austranded seasons where it's like, oh, her losing to like the one person who from outside the alliance who makes the end or whatever. Like I could see a pretty deep run here.
Yeah, I think we only have 2 more boots until the merge, in which case most of these people will be making the merge. And I really think, looking at the 2 tribes, like the majority of the hardcore players are on Tidima. With you have Alex, Faraz, Emmett, Haley, Simon, Valeria, John. I don't know, but that tribe is here to play. They haven't gotten to the level where they don't need to start eating one another, and they probably won't, because either they'll get Garrick or they'll just boot Mark, leaving all of them into a merge, and that I think is going to be very dangerous because they're all very good players to varying
degrees.
And
they all want to eat another, though, is the thing, too. Alex is already talking about betraying Val. A lot of people want to betray Valeria, actually. Simon is this dictator label that he's never going to be able to shake off. There's 5 different people in this game still who I think are all wondering if they're going to be the merge.
It's so interesting. Simon is someone in Isolated who was like, he was boring. And then he came back for ANC and really dominated because he was a returning player. Obviously, he was a pre-merge boot, but he got like this reputation there. And then he went into Mykonos as like this ultra huge threat that needed to go very early and still somewhat parlayed that into a little bit of a run early on. And now he's in the game. I would have said out of his depth, although he's doing very well here. So maybe he's just become this threat just by speaking it into existence, or everyone else believing that. I don't know.
Having played with Simon before, I think that he is just like, he's a perfectly capable player and is involved with the strategy, but I've never known him to really be like a dictator or a stickler for votes, or really even mastermind spinning people around. He tends to be a pretty straightforward player. I think the issue is that he's pretty prolific, just in the sense that he plays a lot. And so he's played with a lot of people and they all know who he is. And so I think that is what scares people more than his actual game style. And because someone like Valeria clocked who he was so early, I think he's just set up as like having a bad reputation because she started spreading information about his reputation as soon as she realized she didn't want him around.
He's a GNC people, messy with the reps.
The axolotl definitely did not help.
Oh yeah, the doxer.
The doxolotl. And then, too, I think what happened at one point, and Simon said this in one of his confessionals, basically, he's the kind of guy who, if nobody's stepping up to say something, he will, and he will put himself in that role. And I think that's just what happened. It just fell to him. He was like, I guess I gotta look like the leader. Now, if it's good, now you are the leader, and we're gonna call you a dictator for it.
Yeah, he's definitely like a false leader. We have Haley, who is playing very much a Jed game. It's very Jed, but a good game nonetheless. I don't see him going early here. I see him making a run for it. I don't see him winning, though. I could see like a 5th place situation.
He's your winner pick.
He's not my winner pick. I picked Way.
Oh, on the preseason podcast, you picked Jed.
Oh, I probably did. Yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah, I will say, to give him credit for anything, there's so many people that like are preseason boots or like earlier than they wanted, and they like try to reinvent their games, and they completely overdo it in one direction, and then they fucking suck. But he just knew that he was like, oh, I was playing well the last time, and he was just on what was it, 2 mode. He was playing really well, but just was like on a tribe of all really good players, and just was too under the radar. But that actually works like crazy this season. So particularly if there's someone that will benefit from Palawa going super deep as a group, it's probably him, because I'm assuming Emmett would get targeted eventually somewhat, and then he cleans up against the rest. If this is like a crazy merge that's like back and forth, I don't know if he can really play that game.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough because there's so many big players and personalities here that you'll run the risk of being overshadowed. It'll depend on who can get to the end, who he can get to the end with, and what style he's played throughout. I think at his current activity level and gameplay, I don't know if he keeps at that pace, I don't think he'll have enough. But if he makes like a little end game push or has some kind of idle situation, I think that would swing it in his favor and they'd be in a very good position to win. I think he's going to have to look for a pocket to really set himself up here, because he's going to be going up against some big characters.
Yeah, I think if there's one thing that I'm happy about his performance so far is that I think the proof of concept that we saw both of the other times with Jed, right? Both of his seasons of Stranded, we were really high in postseason. He's like just enough of a personality that you remember him, but not so much that people get bored. And then they were just tragically cut short. We're seeing here that he does have the chops to play that game and ride the middle and play strategically and set himself up well for a merge. And as long as there's not idols or I don't even remember what took him out in 2 emojis. I think it was just people being stupid because they knew who all the other all-stars were. But like when you remove unaccounted for variables, his game is really straightforward and works really well. But I agree with you, Poody. I think what his biggest challenge is going to be is stepping out from Emmett's shadow, right? So I think really his path to the win is ride it out and then be the one to cut in his throat. That's at least what I see for him moving forward.
Yeah, and then there's not too many other people to talk. We talked about Sean. He's insane. An absolute lunatic. I don't know how someone has that much energy to be so exhausting, but I couldn't handle him.
How was your day?
What's that?
How was your day, Poody?
Oh, God. Yeah. I feel like everyone else also is exhausted by him, but at this point, they're just putting up with it because they have to. Either way, I think it's going to be super entertaining how this unfolds. I don't see him going much farther, but I guess you never know. But holy shit, is he an insane person.
I guess 3 other people, I guess I would want to make sure we talk about, because I think they're all poised for longer runs here. I think we've got Jordy, who incorrectly played one of his 2 idols the other night, which it's been fun to follow him. For us, obviously, Kettle, he's maybe the biggest name coming onto the season, and Valeria, who was most people thought ran the pre-swap. Wanted to make sure we didn't forget about them.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about Faraz, obviously a huge star this season, it's been said. And we also didn't talk about Alex either.
Or Liz. Oh my gosh.
Or
so
Liz. There's so many people. I know. There are also many good players. Let's start with Faraz real quickly. It's been Faraz's season, particularly that first week. He was really touch and go with whether he would even make the swap. But here we are, and he's thriving. We talked a lot about his forced swap and fight with Baden, but now I think he's dialed in and should make it very far as predicted. I'll bounce over to Jordy, who found a second idol and then played it unnecessarily at the last trip. But Jordy, even despite that, you could say misstep, you could just say covering his ass. I really think he's like a different player watching Nofo now versus even his last time playing.
And hell, even against Austranded 1, Nofo and Austranded 1 was a lunatic. We loved her. He was a lunatic. But also misplayed an idol there. So just as being with tradition.
I don't know. I don't think it's that different. Like the pre-swap version of him was what I'm pretty used to seeing, which is like good socially, but not in power or anything like that. And so he wasn't a threat, but he wasn't like driving anything. The difference was like after they swapped, it helped that like Palawa was a cohesive group, but like he was really in charge on this like swap tribe. And I think just was not expecting that of himself. And I think it spooked him a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what happened, is he just got a little scared. He's playing great, though. I'm really excited to see what he continues to do. I feel, obviously, the idol was a misplay, but if he didn't want it burning a hole in his pocket, I guess it's not going to, I don't think, have much long-term damage on him just throwing it out right there when he did. So I think he'll be...
And to quote Poody, I was going to say to quote him, he'll just find another one at Merge.
Yeah, he just needs to worry about playing too many, because then he will quickly become the big threat. Like right now, it's good because he's played one. People think it doesn't exist. They certainly don't think he has another one. But should he get paranoid and play another one, I think he will really jeopardize the good foundation he's built. So he'll have to be careful about that. Moving on to... who do we want to talk about? Let's talk about Alex real quick, the other idol holder. Xander is playing a fantastic game this time. A game that I really thought he would have played in his first season. Obviously, he has a little bit more practice under his belt now. But I really think he's going to be a power player in this merge. I still think he might be an early merge boot. That's just the vibe I get. But I'm excited to see what he does with it.
Position here, I think that he's everybody on Noongu's favorite person. That was like his role. And he was doing some sneaky shit in the pre-swap, leaking people's blindside plans, causing chaos. None of it is stuck on him. Everybody is blaming somebody else and pointing fingers elsewhere. So I think he's in a really good spot to go deep. I am a little worried just based off of reading his confessional. He's like everybody else on that tribe, really like itching to make a big move and blindside his allies, and isn't really thinking long term. He just says, oh, I have this idol in my pocket. I need to use it to take out my ally so everybody knows how good of a player I am. So I'm interested to see how he manages that impulse that he's having right now, especially given the fact that the big critique we all had for him after the Andes was that he just coasted off of Abe. So I'm wondering if we might see Xander overcorrect in the merge and just play him out, which I would also be here for. I think that would be hilarious.
Good social player, no strategic instincts. Theme of the season.
Some other people haven't talked about Emmett, obviously star of the season, star of his first season, and then now again killing it, proving why he was the favorite there. He's just so fun to watch, and he's such a good player.
If you want to talk about good strategic player, it's Emmett. That's who you got to look at. His confessionals too, for everything, and talking about the strategy and breaking that down. Really impressive stuff.
And no one even has really even mentioned him as a vote either, which is all the other like big name players have at least had their name thrown out. Like he hasn't once.
You want to know who did want to vote out Emmett?
For us.
Caroline wanted to vote out Emmett.
Oh.
Yeah, Caroline. And that's with Garrett's downfall.
Yeah. No, Emmett, I think we said it. I think said it in my last podcast in a GNC. He's an all-timer. Like you can just tell some people have it. And he's I look back to previous winners who were fantastic. Penner, Varner, not the real Varner, R. Varner. There's people who are like naturally really fucking good at this. And he's one of those people. Like he will always do fairly well or be like, if he does go out early, it's a crime and something terribly wrong has happened. But he's just really good at this game. It's really fun to watch him play. We can go on and on about him, but really quickly we'll shift to... Well, I want to talk about Liz before we get into Valeria. I'll save her for last. Liz is another person who's incredibly good at this, but in a very different way. I think Liz, played by Christina, is super underrated. So she was in Sri Lanka, which was a weird middle season where we were just building up the community post private messages. And once we started getting into Discord, she really got forgotten for a while, but she was in second place there in a very dominating performance. And then she played Austranded 1, where she played as Phoebe and really had some awesome gameplay there and was like a huge threat. And I just think she's super criminally underrated in Strand. So I'm very excited to see what she does here. So far, so good. I think she's in the perfect position. I think she's one to look out for to win the whole thing, to be honest.
Yeah, because she ended up in the exile position. I think she used that really well. She got on the tribe she wanted to be on. I think she made some good inroads there. So I'm really excited. She had the public idol in Austranded, right?
Yes.
I remember that. That was really funny.
And she was Phoebe too, who had the idol in actual Australian Stranded, and that was like her whole shtick was like, I love my idol or whatever.
Like that one gif that she would post over and over again.
Yeah, no, she's Poody. I put her like my number 2 contender behind Emma right now. She did the thing that I've seen a lot of winners do, which is they flirt between under their radar and literally getting voted out in the beginning of the game, and then are like perfectly positioned in the second half of the game. She also is the one confessional where every other player this season, Xander, I heard that there's this other alliance that I'm not included in, but also I'm not getting targeted by. I'm going to blow it all up immediately. Versus she was like, oh, good to know. I'll hold because that means I'm safe, and then I'll know to target them in a few votes. And it's just like when with all these other people that are like, can't wait to blow their load in 2 seconds. It's like very refreshing to see.
Yeah, she's definitely a pro. Just super underrated. Yeah, that's what you need to be, man, to get the job done. Right?
Liz is going to go far and is one of my favorites this season. Just both personality-wise, I find her so funny. But also just like everybody said, just really knows her position well and knows how to work both the top and the bottom of the tribe. You saw her find out that she was potentially being targeted pre-swap and then completely shift her game plan, come up with a new vote. I think she had the strategic chance to do it.
I also said in the messages, I just want to say it again so that it's on recording, that she is in that what has become like the quintessential Austranded winner so far. We had Joaquin, who won the first Austranded, and then we had Drew, who came in and won Red Center, as like these players who everyone knew is super talented and good at the game, but never won. And I think Liz fits in that category for me. You could also put Emmett there. You could put Alex there. You could put a handful of people, but that's become the theme of Austranded. So I would expect that to happen again. And it's really fun to see some of the newer players step into that role and also some of the forgotten players step into that role too. So that will be fun. And I think we're definitely going to get that again in some. Finally, let's close it out with Valeria, one of the most entertaining players we've ever had. Obviously, she came back after a GNC being like the cockroach of the middle of that game. And then she ended up winning Mykonos. And now she's back again and just super crazy, funny personality, just pissing everyone off, really, which is her sweet spot. I don't know how long she can keep that up for. I expect her to be an early merge boot, but I expect she will have something to do with Sean's downfall, and I hope to see some kind of public blowout.
Yeah,
Stephanie is... Go ahead.
First.
Oh, okay. Cool. Yeah, I was just going to say, Stephanie has been just like so much fun to watch, and she gets people to love her like off the bat, and then it's so fun to watch her go from like the typical opening day messages, get to know you, to just like her shit talk and like her memes and like just the way that she entertains people, where it's no longer playing the, oh, I'm your next best friend. We're going to get along so well. And she just like lets her new personality out and is just, Poody said, bitch. But it's what draws people to her. And I'm really excited to see where she goes from here. I agree. I think her position has dropped a little bit since the swap and that she's in some hot water. But definitely nothing that she can't find her way out of. I think that she has the strategic chops to save herself if she needs to. I don't see her being like the winner of this season at the moment. There would need to be some big changes.
Yeah, she played the pre-swap game, in my opinion, pretty close to perfect. She got voted number 5 in that challenge despite knowing every dynamic that was going on and being in every alliance. And no one suspected her, which was pretty nuts. And was funny too. That Pussy Pearl vote in confessional cracks me up still. Even though it's very, like, some of the stuff is hilarious like that and other parts are so cringe. But yeah, this was like, it was like weird. She got like ID'd by a number of people, like with the IM style, but also just like getting called out for being in like that alliance, but that's like on the titty tribe. She just seems like someone that everybody wants to like ride to like number 10 and then just dump.
Yeah, like I go back and forth on whether Stephanie's actually an old school Austranded player just masquerading as someone else. Like she could easily be Mia or Deb for earlier seasons of
I think Stephanie's going to be Valeria's going to be her own worst enemy here. And I think she's already proven that in her confessionals when she's been IDing people and immediately changing all of her game plan and strategy because she's like, wait a second, I don't like this person.
Yeah, I agree. I think anytime you're looking too far into who the alias is outside of the game, you're bound to set yourself up for failure because everybody's trying to hide their identity for the most part. And I just think that it doesn't make sense for you to then be like, oh, I've been playing with you so well, but because I just now figured out who you are, now I feel like everything we've built for the last week no longer matters.
And there's that weird
Which that could also be if she's newer. I don't know how much she had played before Aegean, but that tends to be something people who are newer to playing games think.
Definitely agreed. And I think the part that's hard for her too is that she wears so much of like how she feels in her messages where, yeah, Sean mis-ID'd her and stopped trusting her because of the partner stuff, but also then she started acting really weird to him. And so it was like, it's really easy to tell when she's not in a mood with you. And I think that's going to fire on her.
If she's not an early merge boot that flames out and takes down one of Sean or something, I'm going to be disappointed. I believe that covers just about everyone. If we miss someone, they probably weren't very important anyway. But we have, yeah, as I said, no, I love Tyler, but he's not doing it for me here. He needs to step up in a big way in order for me to talk about him. So far, those are the players that we have. They're all firing on all cylinders besides Mark. And no, I love Tyler. He's very boring here. And he's an easy boot for people, and he's not stepping up in a way that I need him to. So let's see. So he certainly has it in him, but he's very much playing behind the scenes. Not even behind it. He's just not playing. I don't know. He's being too quiet. He needs to give us more. With that, I think that's going to do it for the wrap up. I think we have a lot to look forward to in the coming episodes and the impending merge, which is going to be on Thursday, which is hard to believe because it's already Tuesday. We're going to get a great group. I think the merge should be entertaining. I don't care really what happens. I just want it to be entertaining. And so far they've delivered that. And we have a great mix of absolute goofballs and serious players. That's usually a good combo for a good merge. But I think that's going to do it for me tonight. Thank you guys for listening. This has been Poody out.
Out.
Good night to everyone except for Sean, who will not sleep tonight.